I am pregnant. I barely got the words out before my father cut me off. He did not ask if I was happy. He did not ask about the baby. He looked me dead in the eye across the Christmas dinner table and said, "You are no longer my daughter. You are out of the will. Get out." One sentence. That was all it took for him to erase 32 years of my life. I suppressed the scream building in my throat. I placed his gift on the center of the table, pushed back my chair, and walked out the door forever. The snow crunched under my boots, but the cold was nothing compared to the ice in my chest. That Christmas dinner was not the beginning of the end. The end had started 6 months earlier, in a room that smelled of antiseptic and dying flowers. They say grief brings families together. For us, it was just another stage for Madeline's performance art. While my mother withered away in hospice, I lived in a plastic chair next to her bed. I managed her pain meds, argued with insurance companies, and held the basin while she was sick. I became a ghost in that hospital room. Unseen, unheard, but essential. Madeline visited twice a week. She would breeze in wearing perfect makeup, hold Mom's hand for 5 minutes to take a teary selfie for social media, and then leave because the energy was too heavy for her. Her followers called her a saint. I called her a tourist in our tragedy. But the real theft was not the credit. It was the legacy. 2 days before Mom slipped into a coma, Madeline arrived with a notary. I was in the cafeteria, finally eating my first meal in 20 hours. By the time I came back, the deed to the family estate, the house I had spent my entire savings renovating for Mom's retirement, had been signed over to Madeline. When I confronted them, my father did not even look up from his newspaper. He told me it made sense. He said Madeline was sensitive and needed security, whereas I had a career and was the strong one. He told me not to be greedy. There it was. The trap I had been stuck in since I was 5 years old. The trap of normalization. They had trained me to believe that my pain was the price of admission to this family. They normalized Madeline's parasitism by rebranding it as fragility, and my exploitation as strength. If I fought back, I was the bully. If I stayed silent, I was the doormat. I looked at Justin, my fiancé at the time. He was standing by the window, refusing to meet my eyes. He muttered that it was just a house and told me not to make a scene while my mom was dying. I did not know then that he had driven Madeline to the notary. I did not know he was already sleeping in the bed I bought for that house. I just swallowed the scream building in my throat and went back to adjusting Mom's pillows. I thought I was keeping the peace. I was actually digging my own grave. But as I walked away from that Christmas dinner 7 years later, hand resting on my stomach, I finally realized something. I was not the strong one. I was just the host body. And the parasites were finally hungry enough to eat me alive. I returned to the estate 3 days later to collect my final boxes. I punched my code into the gate, but the keypad flashed red. Denied. The intercom crackled to life. Madeline told me she forgot to mention they updated the security to keep the riffraff out. Her voice was tinny through the speaker, dripping with amusement. The gate buzzed open. She did not come out to greet me. She just unlocked the door remotely. She wanted me to walk the long driveway alone. A visitor in the home I had saved. Inside, the house smelled of expensive leather and erasure. My mother's paintings were gone. The antique rug I had restored by hand was replaced by a white shag carpet. Madeline sat on the new sofa, sipping a green smoothie. Justin stood behind her, checking his watch like my presence was costing him billable hours. Justin told me the boxes were in the garage and to make it quick. I told them I was not leaving without Grandma's engagement ring. It was in the safe, and Mom had left it to me. Madeline laughed. A bright, sharp sound. She snapped her fingers and called for her dog, Princess. A golden retriever trotted into the room. My stomach turned over. Hanging from the dog's collar was a lump of twisted gold, crudely reshaped into a charm. I recognized the diamond immediately. The one my grandfather had mined himself. Madeline scratched the dog's ears and said the ring was so old-fashioned and way too big for her finger, so she had it melted down. She asked if I thought it looked cuter on Princess. My vision blurred. That ring was the only thing I had left of my grandmother. Madeline had not just stolen it. She had desecrated it to make a point. I asked why, my voice barely a whisper. Madeline's eyes went dead cold. She told me the house, and everything in it, was for the daughter Mom was proud of, not the one she pitied. She said I was the help, and she was the prize. Justin chuckled and told me to face it. That I was boring. He said I counted pennies while Madeline knew how to live. He said I dampened the mood just by standing there. The urge to lunge across the table, to scream, to tear that collar off the dog, surged through me like a physical blow. But then, something clicked. The invisible chain of the survivor. For years, I thought my silence was a weakness, a chain keeping me bound to their abuse. But in that moment, I realized it was not a chain. It was camouflage. Predators do not scream before they strike. They wait. If I reacted now, I was just the hysterical sister. If I walked away, I became the unknown variable. I looked at the melted gold on the dog's neck. I looked at Justin's smug grin. I memorized the layout of the room, the expensive new furniture, the arrogance radiating off them like heat. I told them to enjoy the house. I turned my back on them and walked out. I did not slam the door. I closed it softly, ensuring the latch clicked into place. I was not fleeing. I was just moving out of the blast zone. 7 years is a long time to wait. But revenge is a dish best served with compound interest. While Madeline was playing house in my stolen inheritance, I was building a career in mergers and acquisitions. I became a risk analyst, a professional paranoia expert. My job was to find the rot in a company's foundation before my clients bought the building. And I found plenty of rot in Justin's. His tech empire was a shell game. He was drowning. The IRS had slapped a tax lien on his assets, freezing his accounts. He needed $2 million in liquid cash, or he was going to federal prison for payroll tax evasion. He did not need a savior. He needed a shark. So I sent him my husband. Gabriel is not just my partner. He runs a distressed asset fund. To Justin, Gabriel looked like a dumb money investor. A hard money lender looking for high interest and quick returns. Justin thought he found a mark. He thought he could use the house, my mother's house, as collateral to get the cash, fix his tax problem, and then refinance before anyone noticed the title was dirty. The meeting took place in a rented boardroom downtown. I watched the live feed from the adjacent office. Justin looked older, sweating through his expensive suit, tapping his pen against the mahogany table. Gabriel slid a stack of documents across the table and told him the loan was approved. $2 million, wired today. But he noted that his compliance team flagged an issue with the property title. He said the transfer from the mother to the daughter looked irregular. Justin stiffened and claimed it was a family matter that his wife handled. Gabriel kept his voice bored. He said he did not care about family matters. He cared about liability. He explained that if the transfer got challenged, his collateral was worthless, unless Justin signed an indemnification affidavit. He pulled a single sheet of paper from the stack. He explained that the document stated Justin had no prior knowledge of the title transfer details, that his wife acted as the sole agent in that transaction, and that he was an innocent third party. I leaned closer to the monitor. This was the prisoner's dilemma. Marriage edition. In game theory, if you separate two criminals and offer them a deal, the selfish one will always betray their partner to minimize their own risk. A narcissist like Justin does not have loyalty. He has survival instincts. Justin did not even hesitate. He did not call Madeline. He did not read the fine print. He saw the check, picked up the pen, and signed his wife's death warrant. He smiled that charming, empty smile and said it was done. He claimed Madeline handled the house and he just paid the bills. He thought he was signing a formality. He was actually signing a confession that pinned the entire fraudulent transfer on Madeline, while simultaneously committing bank fraud by using an asset he knew was stolen. Gabriel told him it was a pleasure doing business. I watched Justin leave the room, clutching his check like a lifeline. He did not know the check was real, but the account it drew from was managed by the very firm about to audit him. He had walked right into the cage, and he had locked Madeline in with him. The memorial service ended at noon. By 1 o'clock, we were seated in a glass-walled conference room downtown. The air conditioning hummed, cold and sterile, stripping away the humidity of the funeral. Justin sat at the head of the table, still wearing his morning suit. He looked impatient. He checked his phone, tapping his foot against the carpet. He thought he was minutes away from salvation. Madeline sat beside him, fixing her makeup in a compact mirror, oblivious to the fact that she was currently the collateral damage in her husband's survival strategy. Gabriel entered, carrying a thick leather folder. He did not sit. He stood at the end of the table, looming over them. He announced the wire transfer was ready. But before releasing the funds, his lead auditor needed to verify one final discrepancy in the asset declaration. Justin rolled his eyes and insisted they went over this. He said the house was the asset, it was worth $3 million, and to just send the money. Gabriel said he was afraid the house was not the issue. The issue was the $1.5 million in undisclosed liabilities Justin failed to mention. The IRS tax liens, the outstanding loans to offshore creditors. Justin froze. The color drained from his face, leaving him a sickly shade of gray. He stammered that it was an accounting error. I stepped into the room and corrected him. It was wire fraud. Madeline dropped her compact. It cracked against the glass table. Justin looked from me to Gabriel, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. The shark and the auditor. We were not strangers. We were the executioners. Madeline whispered my name and asked what I was doing there. I placed a file on the table. I told them I was the lead auditor, and I had spent the last week reviewing Justin's loan application. I explained that lying about assets on a federal lending document carried a mandatory minimum sentence. 30 years. I watched the sweat bead on his forehead. I watched his eyes dart around the room, looking for an exit. This was the moment. The illusion of power of an empty wallet. Madeline sat there in her designer black dress, believing she was the queen of a tragedy, protected by her husband's wealth. She did not know her throne was built on quicksand. Justin's voice cracked as he claimed he could fix it. He just needed the liquidity. Gabriel leaned in and said, "We did not want to prosecute. We just wanted the collateral. Clean. No disputes." Justin nodded frantically. He reached into his jacket pocket. He did not reach for a checkbook. He reached for a folded piece of paper. The indemnification affidavit. He slid it across the table to Gabriel, refusing to look at his wife. Madeline asked what it was, her voice thin and sharp. I told her to read it. Gabriel slid the paper to her. I watched her eyes scan the legal jargon. I watched the exact second her world disintegrated. She read the sworn statement where Justin claimed no prior knowledge of the title transfer and accused her of using undue influence. She looked up at him and asked if he testified against her. Justin's voice was pathetic and small. He said he had to. He said they knew about the forgery, and if he did not sign, they would call the FBI. He said he could not go to jail because he had a company to run. She whispered that he sold her out for a loan. Justin shouted back that she stole the house, told him it was clean, and dragged him into this. The marriage died right there in that cold room. It did not end with a bang. It ended with the scratch of a pen and the desperate gasps of a coward. I placed the final document on the table. The deed in lieu of foreclosure. I gave them two choices. Option A, I forward the entire file to the district attorney. Option B, they sign the house over to the fund right now. Voluntary surrender. Justin grabbed the pen. He signed the deed before I even finished the sentence. He pushed the paper toward Madeline and hissed at her to sign it. She said no. Tears streaking her foundation. She said it was her house, and Mom gave it to her. Justin swore that if she did not sign, he would testify against her at the grand jury. Madeline looked at the man she had stolen my life to get. She looked at the husband she thought was her prize. She picked up the pen. Her hand shook so hard she tore the paper as she signed her name. I told them to get out. I gave them until midnight to vacate the property. Anything left behind belonged to the bank. I did not call the police. I did not need to. Police reports can be buried. Reputations cannot. My voice echoed in the cold conference room as I told them they had until sunrise. If they were still on the property at 6 a.m., I would email the affidavit, the one where they admitted to fraud and perjury, to the State Bar Association, his seed investors, and the business journals. Justin stopped breathing. He knew what that meant. A foreclosure he could survive. A federal fraud scandal would make him radioactive. He would never raise a cent again. He choked out that they were leaving. He grabbed Madeline's arm, his grip bruising, and told her to pack her things now. Madeline wailed about her clothes and jewelry. Justin screamed at her to leave it. The mask of the tech visionary finally slipping to reveal the terrified rat underneath. I drove to the estate one last time that night. I parked at the end of the long driveway, keeping the headlights off. I watched them running back and forth from the front door to Justin's leased Mercedes, shoving black trash bags into the trunk. They looked like grave robbers fleeing a crime scene. They screamed at each other the entire time. I could not hear the words, but I saw the finger-pointing, the shoving, the pure, distilled hatred. The love story built on my back had finally collapsed under its own weight. As their taillights disappeared into the darkness, a thought settled over me. The world without Gabriel. If I had not met my husband, if I had not turned my pain into armor, I would still be that woman in the hospital chair. I would be the one homeless tonight, begging my sister for a corner of the house I saved. I would have spent the rest of my life apologizing for taking up space. But that woman died in the hospital with my mother. I got out of the car. I walked to the gate and punched in the new code. The lock engaged with a heavy, final thud. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. I got back into the passenger seat. Gabriel looked over at me, his hand warm on the gear shift. I told him it was done. He did not ask if I was okay. He knew. He just put the car in drive, and we left the grave behind us. People ask me if I hate them. I do not. You have to respect someone to hate them. Now. They are just numbers in a ledger I have already closed. I did not win because I was cruel. I won because I stopped playing a game where the rules were rigged against me. And I kept the receipts. 6 months after the funeral, Justin's tech company filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. The audit exposed $1.5 million in hidden debt. He lost his license to practice business in the state. Last I heard, he was managing a car rental kiosk at the airport. Madeline did not fare much better. Without the house or Justin's money, her social circle evaporated. She works retail now, selling overpriced candles to the kind of women she used to pretend to be. She sued Justin for support, but since she had no assets and he had no income, the judge awarded her nothing but her own legal fees. Last Christmas, I got a voicemail from a blocked number. It was Madeline. She was crying. She asked if family meant anything, reminding me it was Christmas and Mom would want us together. I did not feel anger. I did not feel guilt. I felt the same indifference I feel when I delete a spam email. I pressed delete, blocked the number again, and went back to drinking coffee with Gabriel on our balcony. We have a quiet life now. We do not have a mansion. We do not have drama. We have peace. And that peace was bought with the most expensive currency in the world. My refusal to be a victim. If you are reading this, and you are the one holding the family together while they pick your pockets, listen to me. I learned 3 things in the fire, and they might just save your life. Rule number 1. The blood tax. Family is not a suicide pact. Just because you share DNA does not mean you owe them your future. If they drain your spirit, mock your sacrifice, and demand your silence, they are not your family. They are your creditors. Stop paying the tax. Cut the line. Rule number 2. The paper shield. In a world of liars, paper is the only truth. Emotional promises are worthless. Someone saying they will pay you back is a lie. Someone saying they love you can be a manipulation. But a notarized affidavit, a deed, a bank statement, those are the only shields that work when the knives come out. Never work without a contract, even with the people you love. Especially with the people you love. Rule number 3. The best revenge is the aha moment. Do not get your hands dirty trying to destroy them. You do not have to. People like Madeline and Justin are built on a foundation of lies. All you have to do is remove your support, step back, and let gravity do the rest. Let them realize, too late, that they traded a diamond for a rock. I am Helen. I am 32 years old. And I am finally free. Have you ever sacrificed your dignity to keep the peace? Have you ever let someone steal your light just to avoid a fight? Tell me your story in the comments. It is time to stop paying the blood tax.